Hey everyone, you know some valleys, they're so remote and mysterious that they're completely untouched, hidden between towering mountains deep within jungles or concealed beneath thick fog. These valleys hold strange secrets just waiting to be discovered. Join me as I count down 15 of the strangest hidden valleys. Number 15. Valle de la Luna, Chile. Valle de la Luna, which translates to mean Valley of the Moon, is one of the most peculiar landscapes on the planet, and it can be found at the center of the Atacama Desert in Chile. As part of the Salt Mountain Range, it's become known for its strange rock formations, enormous sand dunes, and salt-crushed land, which all combine to create a place that looks just like the surface of the moon. It's so similar, in fact, that NASA has even used the place to test rover designs that are planned to be sent into space. The area's unique geology has been the result of millions of years of erosion by wind and water that's formed jagged ridges, deep canyons, and unusual formations. Some of the more famous sites there include the Tres Marias, which was a trio of rock formations that have been naturally shaped over centuries into human-like figures, the Amphitheater, which is a massive formation shaped like a stadium, and the Great Dune, which is a massive structure. There's also huge salt flats that give a reflective white surface, and in the places where water is able to accumulate during certain times of the year, you'll also be able to see large flocks of flamingos. The Atacama Desert is one of the driest places on Earth, with some areas having received no recorded rainfall in decades, and this extreme dryness has preserved the valley's features in an almost timeless way, allowing you to explore a landscape that's remained mostly unchanged for thousands of years. But it's during the sunset that it really takes on a special vibe, because as the sun falls below the horizon, the valley's formations and sand dunes reflect a rainbow of colors, making it one of the most stunning natural events in Chile. The clear skies here also make it an ideal place for stargazing, which is why the Atacama region is home to some of the world's most advanced astronomical facilities. Number 14. The Valley of the Geysers, Russia. The Valley of Geysers, which is in Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula, is one of the largest geyser fields in the world. Found in the Kronotsky Nature Reserve, this remote valley is home to more than 90 geysers and countless hot springs. It is, though, extremely difficult to get there, as you can only reach it by guided helicopter tour because of how isolated it is. The geysers here erupt with incredible precision, some of them shooting boiling water and steam up to 130 feet or about 40 meters into the air. These eruptions happen because of underground geothermal activity, where the water trickles into the Earth's crust, gets superheated by molten rock, and eventually bursts out however it can. One of the most famous geysers here in the valley is known as Velikan, or Giant, which erupts with powerful bursts and sends huge columns of water and steam into the air. Another well-known one is the Grot geyser, which erupts more often, although not as powerfully, but it's in a particularly picturesque setting where it's surrounded by rocky outcrops. This valley also has boiling mud pots, fumaroles, and mineral-rich streams. It gives the entire place an alien-like appearance. The valley was, in 2007, struck by a massive landslide that buried a large part of it under tons of rock and debris, and this worry was that the disaster could have permanently changed the valley's features. But over the following years, some of the geysers re-emerged and a range of new hot springs formed, showing the determination of geological structures like these. It's also home to a unique ecosystem, with plants that thrive on the heat and would otherwise struggle in the cold Russian climate. And plenty of animals too, like brown bears, Arctic foxes, and Kamchatka marmots also love this place. Number 13. Valley of 10,000 Smokes, Alaska. The Valley of 10,000 Smokes in Katmai National Park, Alaska, is one of the most amazing volcanic landscapes in the world. This remote valley wasn't anything like this until the beginning of the 20th century, when in 1912 the Novarupta volcano erupted in what would turn out to be the largest event of its kind in the last century. The event released what's estimated to be as much as 30 times more material than the 1980 Mount St. Helens eruption and covered the valley in thick layers of ash and pyroclastic flows. The event majorly reshaped the region, and it created a barren landscape that looks like it's the surface of another planet. Before the eruption, this was a beautiful valley with rivers and vegetation, but after being buried under hundreds of feet of hot ash and pumice, everything was destroyed. The intense heat of the pyroclastic flows even caused groundwater to boil and escape as steam through the thick layers of ash, which gave the valley its name. Early explorers who arrived after the eruption were amazed to see the valley filled with thousands of steaming fumaroles, which made it appear as if the earth was breathing. One of the most interesting features is the Colca Canyon, which was carved through the volcanic deposits and has exposed layers of ash and pumice in shades of yellow, orange, and red. The valley has these wind-sculpted dunes of volcanic ash, making it look like a frozen wasteland. Over time, plant life has begun to return, with mosses and hardy grasses slowly covering parts of this ashy landscape. And animals have moved back in too, including brown bears who trawl the edges of the valley in search of salmon in the Brooks River. It's become a popular destination too, as long as you're ready for a challenging hike to take you into the center of this treacherous place. Number 12. Garganta del Diablo, Argentina. Garganta del Diablo, or the Devil's Throat, is the most spectacular section of the Iguazu Falls, which is on the border between Argentina and Brazil. This huge U-shaped waterfall sees water plunging nearly 262 feet or 80 meters down into a mist-filled valley, which creates a deafening roar. The full Iguazu Formation is one of the largest waterfall systems in the world, but Garganta del Diablo is the highlight. Around half of the Iguazu River's total flow is funneled into this narrow gorge. Of course, the power of the water has carved out a valley deep below the falls, but it's not exactly a place that's been explored by anyone because of how dangerous it would be to go in there. Visitors can see the Devil's Throat from up close and above because of a system of walkways that reach over the water. The walkway, which you can get to from the Argentine side of the falls, leads visitors directly to the edge, where you can look over into the water below. According to Guarani folklore, the falls were created by an angry god who, when he discovered that a mortal woman had chosen another man instead of him, lashed out in anger and split the river in two, creating the valley where the waters now plunge into the abyss. Surrounded by Iguazu National Park, which is a huge subtropical rainforest teeming with life, you may see coatis, toucans, capuchin monkeys, and even jaguars on your way to the Devil's Throat, with the whole region now recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site because of how unique this place is. Number 11. The Lauterbrunnen Valley, Switzerland. Lauterbrunnen Valley, which is in the Bernese Oberland region of Switzerland, is one of the most picturesque valleys in the world. Surrounded by towering cliffs, green meadows, and the occasional traditional Swiss chalet, it's often said to be the inspiration for Tolkien's Rivendell in The Lord of the Rings. The valley's name, which translates to Loud Springs, is mostly known, however, for its 72 waterfalls that cascade down the rock faces that surround the valley. One of the most famous of these is the Stubach Falls, which plunges nearly 984 feet or 300 meters from the cliffs above. This waterfall inspired the German poet Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, who wrote about its beauty in his poem Song of the Spirits Over the Waters. Another famous set of waterfalls is the Trummelbach Falls, which are a series of glacier-fed waterfalls hidden inside a mountain, which can only be reached through tunnels and stairways that have been carved into the rock. From the valley, you can take a cogwheel train to the top with stunning views of the Jungfrau, the Monk, and the Eiger peaks, where there's something strange and surreal about the valley with such natural beauty and with its rich alpine culture and history. It's almost exactly what you'd expect of a Swiss mountain valley, with chalets, picturesque churches, and family-run dairies, with many locals still following age-old traditions like cheese-making and farming. Elsewhere, the valley's network of trails leads to hidden waterfalls, mountain huts, and flower-filled meadows, making this place a perfect retreat for casual walkers and experienced explorers. Number 10. Hunza Valley, Pakistan. Hidden deep within the Karakoram Range, Hunza Valley is one of Pakistan's most legendary places. It's known for its snow-capped peaks, turquoise rivers, and ancient forts. It's surrounded by mountains, including Rakaposhi, Ultarsar, and Ladyfinger Peak. It is such a stunning and remote location that the valley has long been linked to the myths of Shangri-La, which is the fabled utopian paradise that was written about by James Hilton in his novel Lost Horizon. Some even believe that the valley's isolation and the lives of its people, who are said to lead extremely long and healthy lives, means it's a truly magical place in the mountains. The Hunza people that live there, who are mainly of Burusho and Waki descent, are known for their warm hospitality, simple but healthy diet, and unique language. The valley is divided into three main regions: Lower, Central, and Upper Hunza, each with its own unique geography and character. Karimabad, the valley's capital, is home to an ancient Baltit fort and Altit fort, both of which date back over 700 years, and they provide views of the surrounding mountains and the valley. It's particularly famous for its apricot, cherry, and almond trees. One of Hunza's most famous natural wonders is Abbottabad Lake, which was formed in 2010 after a massive landslide blocked the Hunza River. From the valley, you're also able to access some of the world's highest mountains and challenging trekking routes. Walkers and climbers from around the world come to explore trails leading to the base camp, Ultar Meadow and Passau Glacier. The Kunjerab Pass, which is the highest paved border crossing in the world, connects Hunza with China with the Karakoram Highway, which has been called the eighth wonder of the world because of how difficult it was to build in such a landscape. Life here keeps to its traditional ways with an avoidance of modernization wherever possible. Most people still live in historic stone houses and use ancient farming techniques. But interestingly, the valley's literacy rate is actually one of the highest in Pakistan because of the sense of community and locally driven education programs. Number 9. Fish River Canyon in Namibia. The Fish River Canyon in Namibia. It's the largest canyon in Africa that, often compared to the Grand Canyon in the United States, is over 100 miles or 160 kilometers long, up to 17 miles or 27 kilometers wide, and reaches depths of up to 1,800 feet or 550 meters. The canyon was formed about 500 million years ago by some tectonic forces, volcanic activity, and erosion. The Fish River, which is Namibia's longest river at 400 miles, it played a vital role in sculpting this landscape. During the last ice age, powerful forces and water erosion carved deep into the rock layers, which have revealed an ancient geological strata. Perhaps unexpectedly is even with what seems to be an arid and inhospitable environment, the canyon supports a variety of wildlife. The riverbed and surrounding rock formations provide shelter for mountain zebras, oryx, kudu, baboons, klipspringers, and rock hyraxes. Predators like leopards and jackals are prowling the area, and there's more vegetation than you might expect, mainly drought-resistant succulents, camelthorn trees, and quiver trees, which have adapted to survive here. Near the river itself, seasonal water pools become havens for herons, kingfishers, and plovers, bringing life back to this barren landscape. With strange fossilized remains, signs of ancient human life, and plenty of life now in the desert, it's no surprise that Fish River Canyon is steeped in folklore, particularly among the Nama people, which is one of Namibia's indigenous groups. According to legend, the canyon was created by a giant snake sliding through the landscape and carving deep grooves into the rock as it moved. It is an amazing, if not strange and surreal place to visit. The canyon hiking trail covers 53 miles and takes around 4 to 5 days to complete. And due to the extreme desert conditions, though, you're only allowed to even attempt it during the cooler months. But with access to the canyon floor, following the course of the river, with boulder fields and natural hot springs along the way, there's nothing quite like it. Number 8. The Tagda Gorge in Morocco. Found on the eastern side of Morocco's high Atlas Mountains, Tagda Gorge is a valley that's been carved over thousands of years to create a deep limestone canyon that has cliffs rising up to 1,300 feet or 400 meters. It was created by the erosion of the Tagda and Dades rivers, which gradually cut through the limestone rock and sculpted what you see today. The narrowest section of the gorge is pretty tight with a passage that's just 33 feet or about 10 meters wide, with almost vertical walls on either side. Historically, it's a place that's been an essential route for nomadic Berber tribes who have lived in the region for hundreds of years. The Togda River, which is now just a small stream in some areas, used to be much larger and was too a vital water source for the local people. The strange result of these daunting cliffs is that the valley has become known as one of the best rock climbing destinations in Africa. With sheer limestone walls, their cracks, overhangs, and vertical ascents, climbers come from around the world to take on some of the more than 150 climbing routes. But for non-climbers, hiking does give a way to see the gorge in its full glory. Trails follow the canyon floor, giving views of the rocks and an occasional goat or camel near the riverbanks. The more you explore, the more you see why it became so important to the Berber culture and their ability to thrive in the desert environment, with the lifestyle based on farming, herding, and handicrafts. Villages like Tingir, which is just a few miles from the gorge, give visitors an idea of what this authentic Moroccan rural life is like, with mud brick houses and hospitality that's second to none. Moving on to number 7, the Alamut Valley in Iran. The way that valleys are carved through landscapes has directly impacted human civilizations by, in some regions, providing access across the terrain and natural defensive structures. Nowhere has this been the case as much as in the Almut Valley in the Alborz Mountains of northern Iran, which is also known as the Valley of the Assassins. That's because it was once the stronghold of the Nizari Ismaili sect. With the steep cliffs and gorges, Alamut Valley was the center of one of the most interesting periods of Persian history. The name Alamut translates to mean eagle's nest, which is the perfect name for it, and especially for Alamut Castle, which was built on top of a huge rock formation. The fortress, along with the others throughout the valley, became the foundation of a large intelligence and military network led by Hassan Isabah in the 11th and 12th centuries. The Nizari Ismailis, who was often referred to as the Assassins, were known for their advanced tactics of espionage and psychological warfare. For nearly 200 years, Alamut was a symbol of resistance against the powerful Seljuk Empire. The Assassins used their mountaintop fortress as a military outpost to stave off any opposition. In 1256, however, the Mongols, led by Hulagu Khan, launched an invasion that ultimately led to the destruction of Alamut Castle. Most of its vast library, which was said to have held priceless texts on philosophy, medicine, and astronomy, were burned. Despite its fall, though, the legend of Alamut and its assassins lived on and inspired countless stories and tales. It's definitely an off-the-beaten-path kind of a place, though, that's far from easy to be able to visit. Anyone who does, however, is in for a real treat. Number 6. Colca Canyon in Peru. Located in southern Peru, Colca Canyon is one of the most impressive sights you can see in the Andes Mountains. Twice as deep as the Grand Canyon in the United States, it drops to a depth of over 10,700 feet or 3,200 meters, making it one of the deepest canyons in the world. The canyon walls are a mixture of terraced farmland, volcanic rock formations, and cliffs, which creates a strange and unexpected blend of valleys and rock faces. The surrounding peaks, some are over 19,000 feet or 6,000 meters further, add to this undeniably dramatic scenery. The region has been lived in for thousands of years by indigenous civilizations who were around long before the Inca Empire. These ancient cultures built the agricultural terraces that still cover the canyon slopes today. And using advanced irrigation and farming techniques, they've gone on to support generations. The Spanish colonization in the 16th century introduced small colonial towns, many of which have been beautifully preserved. Towns like Chile, Yanque, and Maca have whitewashed churches, cobblestone streets, and lively markets. The region's hot springs then offer a relaxing experience after a long day of exploration. Because of the stunning surroundings and its history, it is a valley that's become popular with tourists, particularly those looking to experience some of the best hiking routes in South America. Most people start their journey from Arequipa, which is Peru's White City, and then head towards the Colca Canyon. The canyon, though, is at high altitudes, where it often reaches a height of more than 9,800 feet, or about 3,000 meters, meaning it's a place where you need to spend a day or two acclimatizing to the height to avoid any altitude sickness. This, though, adds to the complexity of visiting, meaning it's not as busy as you might expect for such a unique location. Number 5. The Valley of Fire, Nevada. Hidden away in the Mojave Desert, Valley of Fire State Park is one of Nevada's most otherworldly landscapes. It's known for its red sandstone formations, its ancient petroglyphs, and strange rock structures. This park covers an area of around 46,000 acres, and is actually Nevada's oldest and largest state park. The valley, of course, gets its name from the red rocks, which appear to be on fire when lit up by the sun. With its prehistoric history, rich Native American past, and outdoor adventures, it is a place that's well worth visiting if you get the chance. One of the park's most famous features is Fire Wave, which is a rock formation with flowing bands of red, pink, and white sandstone, and it looks like it's a frozen wave of fire. Other formations include Elephant Rock, which looks like an elephant with its trunk out, and Arch Rock, a delicate stone arch that's been slowly formed by erosion over thousands of years. The Beehives, too, are a series of honeycomb-like sandstone mounds that show the effects of wind and water erosion. Elsewhere, the White Domes, which are at the northern end of the park, are so bizarre, they're white rock formations within the backdrop of the valley's red landscape. Long before modern visitors discovered the Valley of Fire, Native American tribes, including the ancestral Puebloans, lived in the region over 2,000 years ago. They left behind an incredible collection of petroglyphs or rock carvings that tell stories of their spiritual beliefs. These petroglyphs, found at sites like Atlatl Rock and Mouse's Tank, are some of the best preserved in the southwestern United States. The Atlatl Rock petroglyphs, showing early hunting scenes, include images of the atlatl, which was an ancient spear-throwing device that gave hunters greater accuracy. Mouse's Tank, which is a natural rock basin that holds rainwater long after storms have passed, has also helped researchers learn a lot about the ancient people, but it was named after a 19th century outlaw who supposedly used the area as a hideout. The park's most famous modern residents, though, are probably the desert bighorn sheep, which you'll see nimbly walking across the rocky landscape. But you may also spot other species like coyotes, kit foxes, jackrabbits, Gila monsters, roadrunners, and of course a variety of lizards and snakes. And it may be no surprise that scenery is so cool here, it's been a popular location for TV shows and movies like Star Trek, Total Recall, and the Transformers. It's also used to study challenging environments in a way that will help understand what we might expect to encounter on journeys to planets other than our own, like maybe Mars. Number 4. Dinosaur Valley in Canada. Deep in Alberta, Canada, is a place that's known as Dinosaur Valley, or officially the Dinosaur Provincial Park. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site that has one of the richest fossil beds that's ever been discovered. Over 75 million years ago, during the late Cretaceous period, the area that is now the valley was a subtropical floodplain full of life. These massive rivers carved through dense forests and swamps that created an ideal environment for a diverse range of dinosaurs, reptiles, and amphibians. Today, the valley is one of the most important fossil sites of all, with over 50 species of dinosaurs having been discovered there, including the Albertosaurus, which was a small relative of the T-Rex and was the apex predator in that region, Pachyrhinosaurus, which was a horned dinosaur similar to Triceratops, and Parasaurolophus, which was a duck-billed dinosaur with a long, curved crest. In all, more than 500 dinosaurs have been excavated from the park, with many of these fossils now on display in museums around the world, including the Royal Tyrrell Museum of Paleontology in nearby Drumheller, which has some of the most complete dinosaur skeletons ever unearthed. This is also an important place to study for geologists, as the eroded hills and rock layers reveal a story of the Earth's ancient past, with distinct strata that correspond to different eras. Long before paleontologists discovered this dinosaur valley, though, the region was home to indigenous peoples, including the Blackfoot and Cree nations. These communities have a deep spiritual connection to the land, considering the hoodoos and rock formations are sacred places. Indigenous stories tell of spirits and ancient beings that once roamed these lands, and today efforts are being made to integrate indigenous knowledge and storytelling into the park's educational programs. That's going to give visitors a richer understanding of the land's significance beyond just its prehistoric past. Number 3. Cañón del Sumidero, Mexico. Cañón del Sumidero, which is in the state of Chiapas in Mexico, is another fascinating but strange valley in South America. The canyon was formed over millions of years and features limestone cliffs that rise over 3,200 feet or 1,000 meters above the river. It's not just geologically interesting, but it is also a critical ecosystem that's home to a range of wildlife that has huge historical significance. One of the most famous natural formations within this canyon is El Árbol de Navidad, or the Christmas tree, which is a rock formation covered in moss and ferns and looks like a giant Christmas tree with water trickling down its surface. Elsewhere, there's La Cueva de la Virgen, or the Cave of the Virgin, where a natural rock formation inside a cave looks like the Virgin Mary, and it's attracted religious pilgrims ever since it was discovered. One of the best ways to see the full beauty of Cañón del Sumidero is by boat tour, leaving from the town of Chiapa del Corzo that takes visitors along the river, passing through the canyon walls, waterfalls, caves, and wildlife hotspots. The experience offers an up-close look at the canyon's incredible size as the cliffs rise vertically from the water, creating an immersive experience that shows you just how precious and rare a place like this is. Today, Cañón del Sumidero and the national park have become a focal point for ecotourism and conservation in Mexico. The park authorities and local communities work together to protect the canyon's ecosystem. Visitors here are encouraged to follow eco-friendly guidelines, including avoiding littering, respecting wildlife, and supporting local businesses. One of the big challenges, though, facing the canyon is pollution of the river, which sometimes gathers debris from nearby cities. Efforts are continuing to clean and maintain the river, with conservation groups organizing cleanup campaigns to preserve the natural beauty of the canyon for future generations. But if you're going to visit, the best time is during the dry season between November and May, when temperatures are pretty moderate and the skies are clear, which makes for the best conditions for boating and hiking, although you'll want to be there in the rainy season if you want to see the waterfalls in full force. Number 2. The Charon Canyon in Kazakhstan. Found in southeastern Kazakhstan, Charon Canyon is one of the country's most amazing wonders. It's often called the Grand Canyon of Central Asia. This valley stretches for about 96 miles or 154 kilometers along the Charon River, with vast cliffs, deep gorges, and bizarre rock formations. Despite being lesser known than the Grand Canyon, Charon Canyon is equally as strange and otherworldly. Whether exploring the canyon on foot or driving through its winding valleys, or maybe even camping under the stars, you're bound to have an unforgettable adventure if you go here. The most famous part of the canyon is the Valley of Castles, which is a 1.9 mile or 3 kilometer stretch that's known for these rock formations that look like fortresses, ancient towers, and even mythical creatures. They are all natural, and they've been sculpted by erosion into these strange shapes that even change their appearance depending on the angle of the sun. Some rocks look like human faces, animals, and medieval castles, and have inspired countless myths and legends among the locals. Elsewhere in the valley, there's also the Termalik Canyon, which is a more secluded area with hidden oases, the Yellow Canyon, which, as the name would suggest, is known for its bright golden rock formations, and the Red Canyon, which has a much darker crimson shade than elsewhere. Within these stunning surroundings, the canyon is a popular destination, with many visitors going there to trek through the Valley of Castles, which takes around 1 to 2 hours. It is a relatively easy walk, but it's surrounded by steep canyon walls and rock formations. You will feel like you're passing through an ancient and long-forgotten world. It is possible, too, to take a scenic drive through the canyon, and this gives the chance to reach the more remote parts of the region, where fewer tourists get to go, and gives a real sense of isolation and connection with nature. You'll also find evidence of historical uses of the place, as it was part of the Silk Road trade routes where merchants and travelers once passed through the valley on their journeys across Central Asia. You can imagine them going through and how other local tribes would have learned how to survive in a place like this. It becomes clear why it's also a valley that's rich in folklore and legends. According to Kazakh mythology, the canyon is home to spirits and ancient warriors whose ghosts are believed to roam the Valley of Castles at night. Many local nomadic tribes won't, therefore, go in when it's dark and have long considered it to be a sacred place, believing it holds a mystical energy and ancient secrets. Number 1. Hell's Valley, Japan. Hidden within the mountains of Hokkaido in Japan is a place called Jigokudani. It's a geothermal site near to the town of Noburetsu, which is a strange and bizarre landscape of boiling sulfuric springs, steaming vents, and bubbling mud pools. The name Jigokudani translates to mean Hell's Valley, which is perfect for a place where the earth is continuously releasing steam and heat from its core. This has, of course, led to it becoming one of the most otherworldly destinations in Japan. The country is, of course, a volcanic place, which is why traditional onsen culture is so popular, but things are taken to a different level here, where you'll be relaxing in therapeutic hot baths one moment and exploring unusual landscapes the next. This has all happened because Jigokudani is actually the main volcanic crater of Mount Hiyoriyama, which is a volcano that's still very much active and fuels the thermal springs and fumaroles, or steam, that are scattered across the valley. There are countless features here that are worth seeing, but the most well-known ones include Oyonuma, which is a massive bubbling sulfuric lake that keeps constant temperatures of around 122 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 50 degrees Celsius. Elsewhere, there's Tessen-ike, which is a powerful geyser that erupts occasionally and shoots boiling water into the air. The combination of the sulfuric fumes, hissing steam, and sharp volcanic rocks makes it easy to see why this valley was named after hell. And whenever you're in the valley, you'll always have the slight taste of sulfur in the back of your throat. Japanese folklore tells of oni, which are fearsome demons that were believed to have once lived here, And according to the legends, these supernatural creatures controlled the volcanic fire and the hot springs, and they would sometimes leave the steaming vents so they could haunt the valley. Even today, Oni statues can be seen around Noboribetsu, celebrating the mythical guardians of the hot springs. And every summer, the town hosts the Hell Festival, where people dress up as Oni and parade through the streets to reenact battles and rituals from local folklore. If you're brave enough to risk meeting an Oni yourself, there are hiking trails that leads into the Hell Valley and the series of wooden walkways that allow you to walk safely among the steaming vents or boiling streams. In summer, the valley is misty, still with foliage, and it's probably the best time to go because that's when the Hell Festival takes place. Into fall, the red and orange leaves enhance the hell-like landscape, and then things take a surprising turn in winter when snow covers the valley, apart from the areas surrounding the geothermal activity. And during this time, many of the routes become impassable because of the snow, which further add to the isolated feeling of this place. Even though it is in a remote area, it can actually be easily reached from Sapporo, which is the capital city of Hokkaido, but you'll still feel like you're in the middle of nowhere or in a different world. Click to watch the next video on 15 amazing hidden houses. Thank you to our channel members.